2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on into another week and a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, that free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Carlos Ortiz and Moist Mike rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific today. We will start the show with Justin Jefferson. And let me start the show by saying thank you to the Minnesota Vikings for not being one of the dumbest teams in the NFL. Because it made no sense to me when a deal wasn't done last year why it was taking this long this offseason. And I sat here on the air 2 weeks ago and I said, let me be the person to get this deal done. Because it makes sense for the Vikings to pay Justin Jefferson, and it makes sense for Justin Jefferson to get the bag right now. And all I did was quickly look up who's the highest paid wide receiver from an average annual value standpoint, and I saw that it was A.J. Brown. And he makes $32 million a year on his new contract. And I said, that deal with the Vikings and Justin Jefferson needs to be an average annual value of anywhere between $32.5 million and $35 million over 4 years. And the Minnesota Vikings today, they make the announcement, or it gets reported by Adam Schefter, that the Vikings and Justin Jefferson have agreed to a new contract, a 4-year deal worth $140 million with $110 of that guaranteed. Now, since I'm not good at math, I will do 140 divided by 4, and it's $35 million. So look how simple that was to get in the ballpark of what this was going to take. And thankfully, they got the paper or the pen to paper, and they got this deal figured out. Because it would have been an absolute disservice to not only your fan base, but to your young quarterback if they would have walked into this season with one of the best non-quarterbacks in the league disgruntled. It would have made no sense to not take care of Justin Jefferson before the start of this season. Because if you didn't, what do you run the risk of? Justin Jefferson not being happy, Justin Jefferson, who I like and is a friend of the show, potentially becoming a malcontent, or Justin Jefferson if he suffers a hand injury, a shoulder injury, a hamstring injury, a back injury, missing probably more time than what would have been necessary in order to come back because he's thinking about the future. Players like Justin Jefferson, you can't just snatch them out of thin air. And if they would have traded Justin Jefferson, it would have stunted the growth of that franchise, would have stunted the development of J.J. McCarthy, and what would you have got back? You would have got back 2 first-round picks. I'm confident in saying that. And what are the odds that those 2 first-round picks, with how many times we sit here and we talk about teams who continuously throw up on themselves when they're picking in the first round, what would those 2 first picks have turned into? And is there a chance that those 2 first-round picks would have been better or even on the same playing field as Justin Jefferson? Can't say with 100% certainty, but in all likelihood, those 2 first-round picks could not have been able to hold the jockstrap of Justin Jefferson. So this is a good day for the Vikings. This is a good day for Justin Jefferson, because what you did was you found a way to lock up a top 5, top 10 player in the game if you take all the quarterbacks out of it. He's a top 3 wide receiver. I personally think he's the second best wide receiver in football behind Tyreek Hill. But Justin Jefferson, all he's done since getting in the league has been balling out and exceeding expectations. It was an absolute joke that there was 4 wide receivers that went in front of him in his draft class in 2020. And CeeDee Lamb, I could understand. But I remember saying this at the time. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. I never even thought it was possible that Jalen Reagor, you knew he was going to be a first-round pick. I didn't think he was going to go in front of Justin Jefferson. But those 4 guys did. And that's how kind of my relationship with Justin Jefferson started is 2 days after he got drafted, he came on the show, and I just asked him, you know, with having some Philadelphia roots and Eagles fans taking Jalen Reagor and the Vikings celebrating that pick because they wanted Jefferson, you know, what do you say to the teams that took wide receivers in front of you? And he said all of them are going to pay. And he's not wrong. And I know you could argue that based off team success, like, hey, the Eagles ended up, you know, going back to a Super Bowl. They've had a lot of team success. But if you look at the 4 players in front of him, Jerry Jeudy's no longer on the Denver Broncos, and he's been underwhelming. He's now on the Cleveland Browns. We know Henry Ruggs is in prison. And you also had Jalen Reagor. I don't even know what team he's on right now. I think he was last on my Patriots, actually. I don't know if he's still on the New England Patriots, but there's busts. And then there's someone like Jalen Reagor. And then, because CeeDee Lamb wasn't even the first wide receiver off the board in that draft class. I think he was the 3rd. But CeeDee Lamb has been a very good wide receiver. I'll even say he's been a great wide receiver. But he's not Justin Jefferson. So Justin Jefferson comes on this show and he says all those teams are going to pay. And I'm going to go on to be a star. And there are many moments in history where players say that. Remember, like Josh Rosen, when he said that, and other guys as well, that usually that's held against them or it follows them, and they don't live up to the hype. You could not have got off to a better start of a career than what Justin Jefferson's had. The only one where you're like, okay, it wasn't spectacular was last year, but he was out with an injury. Still was a 1,000-yard receiver. You look back so far at Justin Jefferson's start to his career, 2020, 16 games played, 88 receptions, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2021, 17 games played, 108 receptions, 1,616 yards, 10 touchdowns. 2022, 17 games played, 128 receptions, 1,809 yards, 8 touchdowns. Last year, in only 10 games, he had 68 catches, 1,074 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. You do that math, and I'm just going to go off what the stat sheet says in front of me. 5,899 yards receiving in 4 years, 392 receptions, and 30 touchdowns. There's no reason why it took this long to get a deal done. And as you see, when you wait and wait and wait, the price only continues to go up. It's kind of like where we're at with quarterbacks right now. You wait and wait and wait, price goes up. Because wide receivers and the demand for paying wide receivers and locking up not only one wide receiver, but 2 wide receivers with how much the NFL throws the football is at an all-time high. And sometimes there's good players that get great money, and that's going to be something that we're going to figure out, like what happens. Like Brandon Ayuk's a good player. T. Higgins is a good player. I wouldn't call them great, but what are they going to get? You know, CeeDee Lamb is going to get paid like a top 3 wide receiver in the league, even though he's not a top 3 wide receiver in the league, but he's a top 10. You have a place at the negotiating table. Justin Jefferson, though, has been everything and then some. So this is why you get the deal done. And I was surprised how long it did take, but you throw that thought and rip it up and throw it in the trash because they ultimately did what they had to do. And that was get the deal done. Now, when you turn your attention, because this is on my priority list for the last 2 years, Justin Jefferson getting paid in Minnesota when I thought about the Vikings, where do I turn my attention to next? And let me say this, and let me be 100% clear. The Minnesota Vikings, after paying Justin Jefferson and keeping him in Minnesota to develop this core of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, you have TJ Hawkinson. We'll see how long Aaron Jones could hang around in Minnesota coming over from the Packers. But the Minnesota Vikings now need to name J.J. McCarthy their starting quarterback. We all know J.J. McCarthy will start for the Vikings at some point, but don't do what the Steelers did a few years ago, which was make their guy wait. Find out if he's going to be the guy now because he's NFL ready. And just because you're NFL ready does not mean you're going to have success. But you're ready to get thrown into the water, and we could see if you're going to swim or if you're going to sink. Don't play Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is known for 2 things in his career: seeing ghosts and having mono. It would be pointless to start Sam Darnold and throw him to the Wolves for 3-4 weeks, for a month, and then go to J.J. McCarthy. I don't know if J.J. McCarthy is going to be great. I think in the right circumstance, which he is in Minnesota, he could be good. But there's no reason to delay the tenure of J.J. McCarthy by a month because he's ready to go right now. He is NFL ready, and he's gone to a situation with the bright head coach, who's an offensive-minded head coach, and more than enough talent for him to swim in year 1. So please, 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 don't be apprehensive if you're the Vikings and say, oh, we want to wait on starting the J.J. McCarthy era. That would be bullcrap. It would be baloney. Throw McCarthy into NFL action come week 1, and anything short of that, barring injury, assuming he's healthy, anything short of that would be severely disappointing for me. Okay, let's go around the room here because we're talking about Justin Jefferson, and we're discussing how Justin Jefferson is one of the best non-quarterbacks in the NFL. So who is the best non-quarterback in the NFL? It could be on the offensive side of the ball. It could be on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think you're going to go with a kicker, but if you want, you could go with Justin Tucker. Be my guess. I'm not going to do that. If you want to go with a long snapper, feel free. But the guy I'm going to go with is run CMC Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, to me, is a guy that could win the MVP. It is very tough for non-quarterbacks now to win the MVP. I think there are a few guys in this league that could do it. I will save off all of those names because I don't want to take Carlos's name or I don't want to take Samter's name here, who they're going to throw. But when I think of the San Francisco 49ers, we probably talk the most about Brock Purdy, right? We probably talk the most about the contract situations of Debo and Brandon Ayuk, right? Shanahan and not being able to win a big game, how great that defense is through different defensive coordinators. But the first player I think of and the guy that I think is the most valuable to that team is Christian McCaffrey. Like, Brock Purdy's good. He's solid. He played very good this year. But I'm not calling him great. And it's tough to get to a Super Bowl in this league without having a great quarterback. And a big reason why they get there, yes, Trent Williams is amazing. Yes, Debo's good. Yes, Brandon Ayuk's good. Yes, Kittle's good. Yes, Shanahan's a good coach. Yes, the defense is really damn good. But Christian McCaffrey is a difference maker in the run game and then in the pass-catching game as well. And to me, he is the most valuable and he is the best non-quarterback in the NFL. All righty, let's go to Carlos Ortiz. What are you laughing about, by the way?
I'm trying to adjust this mic because I know you complain about how low I sit.
Yeah, you do sit low to the ground.
And it's like smacking me in the face. It doesn't want to stay exactly where I want it to stay.
Well, I don't care where you put the microphone and how low you sit, just as long as you're talking into the mic and people can hear you clearly.
Yeah, I know how to use a microphone. You talk into it.
I don't know.
It's a pointer. It points right back at you. You can't mess it up.
You could. There's a lot of people that come in here as guests or that host that don't know how to speak into the microphone.
Well, I am a broadcast professional.
Are you?
Yes. Speaking of which.
Carlos Ortiz, broadcast professional. You're right.
Yeah, that's right. When you ask the pros, you ask Zach, and then you can ask me. I'll give you my players since you asked me for one. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce. On the field, ooh. Patrick Mahomes has a passer rating of 93.8 with a bunch of stats I'm not going to read off. Most of that was against a mid-ass Steelers team back in 21. Here's why I have him as one of the most impactful players in the NFL. You take Travis Kelce away, I have no faith in any Chiefs receivers. But that's all the on-the-field stuff. Dude, off the field, you don't think the NFL wants to milk this Swiftie money for all that it's worth? Travis Kelce is the most recognizable face outside of Mahomes in the NFL, so Kelce's my guy.
Okay. Samter, what do you got cooking?
Well, I mean, you talked earlier about how Justin Jefferson is probably the second best receiver in the NFL. So, therefore, the best receiver, Tyreek Hill, to me is by far the most dynamic, best non-quarterback out there. Doesn't matter what team he's on, right? Whether he's with Patrick Mahomes or he's with Tua Tagovailoa, if he's in KC or South Beach. Tyreek Hill is a difference maker everywhere he goes. And not only does he help the offense, he makes other receivers and everybody else around him better because he's so fast, he stretches out that defense, helps the run game, helps the quarterback, helps the other receivers, helps the tight ends. There's nobody more valuable to a team than Tyreek Hill.
And he is one of those few players in the league, right? Because most of us, when we look at teams in the league, we think about quarterbacks first. That's just what we think of. And Tyreek Hill, along with Christian McCaffrey, are two of the, and there's a few others that we'll get to in just a second, but they're two offensive players in the league where you don't think about their quarterback first. Tyreek Hill is more valuable than Tua Tagovailoa. Christian McCaffrey is more valuable than Brock Purdy. But when we get the answers from Samter of his best player in the league that's not a quarterback being Tyreek Hill, mine is Christian McCaffrey, and you also have Carlos with a K, his being one Travis Kelce. All three of those guys are on my short list of answers. Other guys that you could include, Justin Jefferson, Trent Williams. It's funny that the 49ers could have two guys just because of what Trent Williams does, blocking and being a stalwart for so many years with the Commanders and now with the 49ers at that left tackle spot. And then you have to go with two defensive players. And the two defensive players, they're the two best defensive players in football. It's TJ Watt and it's Myles Garrett. And I would go in that order with it being like one and then the other being 1A if I had to pick. So best non-quarterbacks in the league. Carlos is absolutely right. Kelsey's on that list. Samter's absolutely right. that you have to have Tyreek Hill on that list. Clearly, I go with Christian McCaffrey. Others that you could consider, though, Trent Williams, Justin Jefferson, and TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. Is there anybody else that you think we need to throw in? Like, Devontae Adams is a heck of a wide receiver. Had that all-pro year with Derek Carr as his quarterback, but I think he's the third best receiver in football. And when Kelsey's also a pass-catching option, I don't put Devontae Adams on that list. He's a heck of a player. Like, we gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he's in the top 10 probably of that conversation. I would think. You want to hear one more that I think's an underrated one? He's a great player. Everyone knows that he's a top 15 player in the league. But maybe he needs to be appreciated more. What about Max Crosby? I would put Max Crosby before Devontae Adams.
You took that name. I literally was thinking, I'm like, who's the only other guy I can think of? Maybe Micah? Nah. I was like, Max freaking Crosby. And you said it right as I was about to hop in. So, yeah, I think so too.
Well, we're doomed then for the rest of the week. Because if we're thinking on the same page, then there's going to be some bad thoughts the rest of the week.
The one thing I'll say, though, is if we're talking about, like, the best, I think TJ Watt, Myles Garrett better than Max Crosby. Max Crosby's in that conversation.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about, like, who's the most impactful non-quarterback, clearly TJ Watt, Myles Garrett go ahead of Max Crosby.
Yes.
Like, he can certainly be within that conversation.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, the Browns haven't got the production they needed out of their quarterback yet. Neither has the Steelers with TJ Watt. And you could say the same with Max Crosby. And those are guys, like, when the quarterback is either not good or they're really bad, like we've seen from the Browns, the Steelers, and the Raiders, the fact that you think of those guys shows you their value and how they're not only just great defensive players, but some of the better players in the league. All right, who's the best non-quarterback in football? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. When we come on back, I believe this person is the most polarizing player in sports right now. I'll tell you who that person is next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're in the right place. The Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's get into this Kennedy Carter going after Caitlin Clark fight and all the insufferable conversation that it has produced. Caitlin Clark right now is the most polarizing player in sports, and she shouldn't be polarizing at all. What Caitlin Clark is she is the female version of Steph Curry. She is so fun to watch, even when she only had 3 points the other night, right? And she had an off night. But even with her struggling a little bit and getting her feet wet in the WNBA, she's the female version of Steph Curry. And that's why a lot of us has fallen in love with someone like Caitlin Clark and makes us want to watch WNBA games or women's college basketball games when that always wasn't the case. But the conversation around Caitlin Clark now has really been a massive turnoff. And it's turned into something where it makes me want to watch the sport less, or I'm just so frustrated where I don't care. Like, this debate about Kennedy Carter and Caitlin Clark is so silly. Kennedy Carter, she knocked Caitlin Clark on the floor. It was a dirty play. The coach even admitted shortly after the game or the next day via statement that that's unacceptable. But it's not even that. Like, there's so many takes that could come from this. One, why did none of Caitlin Clark's teammates run to her defense? Like, if that was in hockey, and let's say Caitlin Clark was the goaltender and someone hit the goalie, you would have everyone on the team jumping the person that hit the goalie. But it was weird to me that no one came and pushed back to the defense of Caitlin Clark. And that's not me saying her teammates don't like her, to be clear. That was just odd. And then always going back to the NCAA tournament run that she had this year, it seemed like some of the older heads in the WNBA are like annoyed with the attention or jealous of the attention that Caitlin Clark is getting. It's not Caitlin Clark's fault that she's unbelievable at basketball. She shoots the three-point rock from a ridiculous long-distance range that once again mirrors Steph Curry, and a lot of people like her. But just the dumb commentary that I've heard about Caitlin Clark It's crazy that she's now the most polarizing athlete in sports because she shouldn't be polarizing. We should all celebrate and love what she's brought to the game of women's basketball and how it's making so many of us now tune in. But all it's been is 50% of the people praise Caitlin Clark, and then the 50% of people that tear her down or try to tear her down just sounds stupid. Like, how about the lady on The View saying that, oh, Caitlin Clark's success has a lot to do with being pretty and being white and being tall? Like, I've never watched Caitlin Clark and said, oh, I only like her because she's white, or I only like her because she's tall, or I only like her because you think she's pretty. None of those three things have ever crossed my mind. I like Caitlin Clark because she's ridiculous on the basketball court. She's a great competitor, and she shoots these three-point shots where it makes me think like a dope. I could walk into a gym and shoot the same shots, and I airball all of them. But it's so cool to see her play because she looks like a video game. The whole conversation has been hijacked, and it's turned into just petty BS. And this is what we do as a society, and it's a damn shame, where we have something that's great and that's so awesome and that's so fun, and we do so much analysis on why those things are happening. We always have to try to find another side to it, where the content and the dialogue surrounding her, I just sit there and I just go, what the heck are we even talking about? Like, how many different takes there have been off what the lady from The View said and what Kennedy Carter did? There's nothing. What Kennedy Carter did, it just has to be analyzed as this, at least through my lenses. It was a dirty play. She was trying to give, Caitlin Clark, hey, you're a rookie, I'm not. And that's kind of sports. Her teammates should have rushed to her defense. They didn't. And it seemed very unnecessary what Kennedy Carter did. Like, it looked like she mouthed to her, you B word, and then shoved her. That's a foul, and that's unacceptable. Has it happened in sports before? Absolutely. Will it happen again? Absolutely. But it's just weird to me how this has now become a race issue with Caitlin Clark. And this goes back to what was said on The View. It's just stupid. And this lady, Caitlin Clark, should not be polarized. And I get it, when you're successful and people are jealous of you, you naturally become polarizing. Like, for years, Tom Brady was polarizing. LeBron James, is polarizing. Tiger Woods, obviously polarizing. Sometimes there's reasons, though, why you don't want to root for someone or why someone is polarizing. But the Caitlin Clark one, to me, is mystifying. Because all she's done has brought more attention than the WNBA has ever seen. All she's done has been putting the places where she goes on the map and bringing so many people to watch her, and she's been extremely successful. Like, think about what Caitlin Clark has done. It has not only brought more attention to the WNBA, it brings more dollars to the WNBA, and it treats the players in the WNBA better. Like, until Caitlin Clark there weren't these charter flights. So think about that. And I'm not saying everyone has to love her, because that's just not the way that this world works. And I guess that there are some players in the past who put in the work and are great players, and maybe they're jealous. But it's just funny how unnecessary the jealousy and then just some of the dumb commentary that follows her. Like, not everything needs to be made about race. We don't need to look at Caitlin Clark and go, oh, well, the attention, she's only able to flourish because she's white, she's pretty, and she's tall. Like, really? If Caitlin Clark couldn't shoot the basketball the way that she did, I don't care what color she is, how tall or short she is, or if she's pretty or not. I wouldn't be interested because it doesn't captivate your attention. Caitlin Clark lining up like she's Steph Curry and jacking up a three from God knows where is what makes me tune in. I don't tune in because she's white, she's tall, and people view her as pretty. That's never crossed my mind. So I've got to a point where I'm just sick and tired of the coverage. And the coverage around Caitlin Clark, which she has done nothing wrong, and just how many stupid dopes with platforms get behind a microphone now and embarrass themselves and try to make something an issue that's not. and they try to overanalyze things because you can't just say she's a great basketball player. You always have to give a crazy hot take that's in the positive or a crazy hot take that's in the negative. It's made me just not even want to entertain the conversation anymore. Now, I have to for my job because every show around the country today is talking about Caitlin Clark and Kennedy Carter and this whole incident. But just everyone's opinion on this. And this goes from what McAfee said on his show today, calling her the B word, what happened on The View. It's just a never-ending cycle of just stupid take after stupid take after stupid take and just stupid things being said where we should just appreciate what she's doing and don't have to make it into something more and make it a bigger issue and then turn this now into like somewhat of a negative story. So that's where I'm at with Caitlin Clark. And I never would have thought when Caitlin Clark, a lot of us found out about her and started to follow her a lot 2 years ago in that run against LSU in the national championship game and all that stuff. I never really thought I used the word polarizing to describe her. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, she will talk trash. She will be in your face, as you should. And if people want to give that back, as long as it doesn't cross the line, more than fine as well. But I didn't think she would become as polarizing as it is, where it seems like, I don't know if it's 50-50. It seems like there's 60% of the people that love her. Maybe it's more than that. And then the 40% that can't stand her. Man, it is a vocal group of people that can't stand her. Maybe it's 70-30. And it just, with how much of the nonsense I see on Twitter, and sometimes I have to remind myself that Twitter's not a true reflection of society. All righty, we'll take a time out. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I was at UFC 302 over the weekend in New Jersey. Was that Dustin Poirier's last fight? And Dana White was supposed to be holding a press conference today with Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor as that fight comes your way at the end of the month. But the press conference in Dublin, Ireland got canceled. Is Conor McGregor not going to step foot in the octagon at the end of the month? We'll discuss next. Update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance. Very sad news from the NFL with the passing of Hall of Famer Larry Allen, the former Cowboys great. Died while on vacation in Mexico with his family. He was just 52 years old. Allen was an 11-time Pro Bowler in his 14 seasons. 12 of those were spent in Dallas. He was also named first-team All-Pro 6 times. Justin Jefferson can relax before training camp starts next month. He can celebrate his new contract that makes him the highest-paid receiver in the NFL. The deal for 4 years and a total of $110 million guaranteed. The Phillies are the best team in the National League and will host the surging Brewers, who have won 5 in a row. Milwaukee has surpassed expectations thus far. First-year manager Pat Murphy said they're just starting to figure things out.
We're under construction. We're work in progress for sure. Look at the number of pitchers that have saved a game. Look at the number of pitchers that have started a game. We're work in progress. Guys are getting comfortable in their roles, and we've battled some injuries and gotten through it for the most part, and we'll battle again.
Tonight also marks Reese Hoskins' return to Citizens Bank Park. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, sports fans. Andrew Perloff here on the Infinity Sports Network. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Fun continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
I'll get to the phones in just a second. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227 as we're talking about Caitlin Clark, as I think she's the most polarizing athlete in sports right now, and I kind of think that's crazy to even say that sentence. Also, we'll get into, was that Dustin Poirier's last fight in his UFC career, which I was at on Saturday evening. And we'll get into what's going on with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler in just a bit. Obviously, I'm not in a good mood today because my Rangers did lose on Saturday evening, so there's no Game 7 tonight with a chance to go to the Stanley Cup Final. The Florida Panthers were the better team, and the Rangers, as they've done my entire life, have let down their goaltender. Igor Shesterkin was sensational, just like how Henrik Lundqvist was sensational, and the team didn't get the job done in front of him. They couldn't go to war for Igor, which I was calling for going into that Game 6 after I was very disgusted Thursday evening after being at Game 5 and the team didn't really show up for their goaltender. They didn't show up for their goaltender for the majority of the series. So you get to the Stanley Cup Final. People have been asking for my prediction. I will give you an official prediction later in the week. Right now I lean with the Florida Panthers, but I do think it is great for the NHL that they have their best player, Connor McDavid, who's the face of the league, and then Leon Draisaitl, who's another top 5 player in the league, both in the Stanley Cup final. As Dallas, I was very disappointed with Dallas with their performance in Game 5, and then they outshot the Oilers last night 35-10. I've never seen that. I know hockey's bizarre, but to outshoot a team 35-10, I didn't look at the numbers, but I have to imagine there's never been a team in the modern era to win a game to advance to the Stanley Cup final where they only were able to get 10 shots off, and they won with that final score being 2-1. But some of you may be like me, where we're waiting for the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Stanley Cup final to start. We're waiting still for the NBA finals to start. The NBA will be on Thursday, thankfully. It's been such a long layoff, and the Stanley Cup final game 1 is going to be Saturday. But some of you may need a pick-me-up today. So I'm going to try to give you that pick-me-up. I don't know if Samter has seen this. I'm assuming Carlos has seen this. So Carlos, don't give it away, because it could be the best thing so far of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let me just ask you, yes or no, did you see something over the weekend?
As soon as you were talking, I already saw it.
Oilers related.
I already saw it.
I saw 2 things this weekend that were pretty spectacular, Oilers related. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, indeed.
Now, Samter, I think Samter's usually plugged in. But remember, Samter has a baby at home, a wife who just dealt with a move, and Samter moved as well. And Samter had, like, the whole world just come crashing down on him the last 3 weeks with the car breaking down. He got COVID. A tree fell down in front of his house that wiped out all the electricity and power. This has been a stressful last 3 weeks for Samter. But Samter, there's something that could pick you up if you're a little bit stressful. Did you see what I'm talking about on social media from over the weekend with the Oilers fan?
I definitely saw 2 things.
Yes.
At the Oilers game.
Were they real and spectacular?
They were real and they were spectacular.
You know what? I didn't want to bring that up to you before the show, but I was 50-50 if you would have seen this video. I just really didn't know with all the crap that you had going on if you were seeing maybe the biggest sensation that's hit the internet from the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I will say this. The video that is in question, the original was taken down, I think, for, specific reasons on X.
Hold on. So for people that have no clue what we're talking about, there's an Oilers fan.
Yes.
She's celebrating after her team wins. I don't know if it was directly after that game that people are saying it was, but she takes her jersey and she rips off her jersey and she's showing her Hooters. All right? That's what she was showing. And they're very nice looking. And she was shaking them for 2-3 seconds. And then she put the shirt back down and turned to her friends and realized her friends were recording her. But this lady is now a viral sensation, and everyone is talking about her because it doesn't matter what side of the political world you're on, what race you are, what religion you are. A lot of us can get unified by seeing what we just saw on the internet. But what were you saying? X took that down. Do you know how many times I will tweet something and then I will get like nudes in my bio, and then there's a link of someone doing something that should not be allowed on the internet?
Yes, but I think the difference was this got somewhere around 7 to 10 million views in the course of 12 hours. And so I think that
I thought you were going to say 2 minutes.
No, I think the random nude videos that you're getting are not getting that kind of attention that X can just jump right in.
You know what I also realized, too? I've realized whenever someone criticizes me on social media, like 9 times out of 10, if someone is just ruthless and disgusting to me on social media, if you ever go into their like section, a lot of times it's usually, let's just say, pornographic images that person is constantly liking. And there's one account in particular that they probably hate tweet me. It's got to be 6 or 7 times a day. And I've muted this person. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole in a long time. But for a while, it was like, hate Zach Gelb tweet. And then it was tweeting to some porn star. That was the person's entire account. Just trashing radio hosts, trashing people in the media. And then because the person's so much of a loser, trying to tweet to the porn star and hoping the porn star would pay attention to him. So, yeah, so far that was with the Rangers losing, that's the best part of the Stanley Cup playoffs. That Edmonton Oilers fan. That was some celebration. That doesn't happen at Rangers games, I'll tell you that.
Just one question. Mm-hmm. Are they built for speed or comfort? Serious question.
She's a playoff player. That's all I'm going to say. 855-212.
You old sailor, you.
4227. Let's go to Devin in Raleigh, North Carolina, wants to chime in on the Caitlin Clark conversation that we were having before we just all acted like a bunch of petulant people for the last 5 minutes. Devin, what's happening?
Hey, guys, you lost me at the hockey stuff. I'm a huge hockey guy. I'm a Carolina Hurricanes guy, and I'm still bitter. But, I don't know who I want to win. I hate the Panthers, but I don't want Canada to win a Stanley Cup. So there you go. But with
does
Caitlin
Canada,
Clark,
if Canada won a Stanley Cup, that would really annoy you, Devin?
I mean, I love Connor McDavid, but I kind of hope if they win the Stanley Cup, McDavid gives Edmonton their Stanley Cup and then moves on. He's amazing, but yeah, the whole thing where Canada wants to crap on us Southerners. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
And Florida has won the last 5 Eastern Conference Finals. They want to keep crapping on
with the
Southern hockey. Then let them go ahead.
That really annoys you though. People crap on my hockey team all the time, and they say a bunch of ridiculous things about the Rangers. But who gives a rat's ass what people say?
Yeah, don't talk to me about the Rangers right now.
Well, we're in the same place. We're both going golfing, Devin. We're both going golfing. Both of our seasons were wasted. So
I know. It still hurts, and I know it hurts for you too. So Caitlin Clark, look, I don't want to get into the political realm. Mm-hmm. There is the whole black and white and all of that stuff. But the truth of the matter is that the people who are following the WNBA right now, who were not following them last year, mm-hmm. are following Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
And they're so the business opportunities are there. I know the players are probably not thinking in those terms, but I mean, how quickly do you want Caitlin Clark out of your league? Whether it's she gets injured or whether she gets burnt out or whatever.
And then they'll go back to being irrelevant. I hate to say it that way, and it's probably not right for me to say, but on national platforms like this, whether people value that or not, that's up to them. I have never spent more time in the last 2 years than maybe my whole time doing this, talking about the WNBA and talking about women's college basketball because of what Caitlin Clark has done. And also it opened up the door for us to appreciate other players too and learn more about those players. But without Caitlin Clark, it's not getting this level of attention, and there's not this much money coming in because she's Steph Curry in a woman's body.
I totally agree. I've never watched more than one quarter of a WNBA game in my life. But when Caitlin Clark was making her run, especially her senior year at Iowa, I was all in. And, because she's amazing. She is the Steph Curry of the WNBA, and she was of college basketball. But I just wonder, is it pettiness? Is it?
I think it's jealousy.
What is it where people hate her?
Here's what it is, and Devin, thanks for the phone call. I think it's jealousy. That's what I think it is, because there's a lot of people that were great in the WNBA for a lot of years and had very accomplished college basketball careers as well, and they didn't get the attention. So it is jealousy. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be highly competitive people, and I'm not saying that this shouldn't be a tough game, because it should be. Right? Caitlin Clark plays with a swagger and a toughness too. But what Kennedy Carter did was just unnecessary. It's not the first time it's happened, won't be the last time. But here's the thing here's my biggest issue with Kennedy Carter. It's actually not the shove. It's afterwards she said she's not answering any Caitlin Clark questions. Wouldn't do it in the press conference. If you're smart, Kennedy Carter, for your own brand, you should be talking about Caitlin Clark as much as possible. Now, 50% of the people like you for it. 50% of the people hate you for it. But this is the most relevant you've been. And then afterwards on Threads, like a day later, first off, like Threads? I didn't even know that was still a thing. But you basically post, and that's on that, because beside three-point shooting, what does she bring to the table, man? Well, she brings a lot more than three-point shooting. Have you seen her pass? Because when I watch her play, the passing is outstanding. She has brought a lot of money to the game. She's bought charter planes for everyone to travel comfortably to the game. So this idea that Kennedy Carter, who did what she did, whatever, it happens, but then to get up there and type out what else does she do outside of three-point shooting, it just shows how lost Kennedy Carter is. And it's a level of jealousy that's gone to a level of hatred that should have no level. I'm not saying you have to love her, but it's clear Kennedy Carter hates her. And that hatred is just marinated in jealousy. Yeah, go ahead, same thing.
And the thing that bothered me the most, I'll make this quick, is after the game, they asked her about it, and
three times
she couldn't care less. Here's how she responded to it after the game.
Kennedy, on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the Fever
I
score.
didn't answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
So then don't go on Threads.
I didn't say anything. That's enough.
Oh, that's enough.
That's enough. Shut up.
Well, that was the coach, I think.
Doesn't matter. All of them. Shut up.
No, I don't know if we have to say shut up. I just would like you to be honest and genuine in that moment. And if you don't want to take any Caitlin Clark questions, that's your priority. You don't need to take Caitlin Clark questions, but then don't go on Threads. That's where I'll say shut up. Don't go on Threads and be like, all she does is bring three-point shooting to the game. Come on. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. I will play you some of that Dustin Poirier sound. We'll also get into McGregor and Chandler because I did not get to that here. And we'll also get into the biggest fraud team in the last 25 years in honor of my Rangers once again losing in the conference finals.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, this is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I will get to the biggest fraud team in sports in the last 25 years in just a second, but I did go to UFC 302 on Saturday. I always enjoy when I could catch a UFC event. I've gone to 2 at Madison Square Garden and then 1 the other night at the Prudential Center, which is in New Jersey. So I was sitting in the Devils press box. That's where the Prudential Center is where the Devils play. And I watched the entirety. I got there early. The preliminary fights didn't start till like 8 o'clock. The Rangers started right at like 8:15, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. So I had my computer with me, had my headphones on, and I was watching the Rangers game. And then I had UFC in front of me. I had to stand up when the Rangers game ended and go to the bathroom and just take like a walk of frustration because it was like about 100 feet or so from where I was sitting to where the bathroom was. Had to just walk back and forth a few times. Never even went to the bathroom. Just said I had to go to the bathroom, walk to the bathroom, walk back, walk to the bathroom, walk back, walk to the bathroom, walk back, then sat down next to my buddy who I was covering the fights with. Then we see the fights. The last one is Islam up against Poirier. And Poirier loses. Now, after the fight, he gave a very emotional interview. And he was talking to Joe Rogan. He was talking in the press conference scene. And this was like an event. Always the UFC stuff is an event. But Donald Trump goes to like all of these. He did walk out once again to Kid Rock's American's Badass. I thought with what happened last week, not giving a political take whatsoever. I'm just saying what I would have done if I was him. I would have came out to Many Men when you were walking to your seat. You had Aaron Rodgers, who was in the building. A friend of the show, Mike The Situation, was in the building. You know, there was a lot of different people from football, from reality TV, to then a former president of the United States that was at UFC. And you had a bunch of fighters, too. And there's a bunch of people that they showed that I'm just forgetting who they were. So this was like a crazy event. And like at the Garden, it's usually spread out. this was just on top of everybody. So when the event ended, like, I saw Khabib, who obviously is a part of the corner in the Islam fight. I was standing right next to Sean Strickland, Poirier. I saw Rogers. I saw basically everyone that was there. So it was a pretty cool event to go to, regardless if you like the people that I just mentioned or not, and I won't hold that against you. So Poirier is talking and acknowledges that this could be it. And before UFC 299 in Miami, he acknowledged that this could be it as well. But when I'm sitting there, and I usually have a good judge of human beings, you could tell, like when LeBron said, I don't know about my future a postseason ago, and I may retire, we all knew that was bullcrap and he was coming on back. But what I feel like with Poirier is that he knows, right, whether it's his family, people close to him, or just his internal play clock, he knows that he doesn't have too many fights left, if any, but he still wants to fight. And that's like what great athletes do. You look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady retired, then came back, and then retired again, sat out this whole year, and he's still talking about maybe playing again. Right? There's a lot of times in sports, and that's when you have a lot of athletes that stick around 2 years too long and probably should have retired 2 years sooner, because it's that internal fight, which it's the most difficult thing in sports. It's that internal fight that the athlete has. Doesn't matter if you play soccer, baseball, NFL, hockey, basketball, if you're a UFC fighter, does not matter. When you start to think that maybe it's the end, that's when you should probably walk away. And I once talked to Dana White about this. And Dana White said to me, usually when fighters start talking about the end, I want them to retire. Because this isn't just like a sport like basketball or like baseball, where you don't need to be, like, basketball players obviously need to be in good shape, but we've seen basketball players that are out of shape that still hang around, and there's some guys that hang around in the league that you're like, how the heck is this person still in the league? Same thing goes for baseball. Like, there's a way in other sports where you could elongate your career and still not be a very good player. But in fighting, if you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, well, you're not training as hard, and then you are having someone standing in front of you, punching you, kicking you, and taking you to the ground. It's a little more difficult, let me just say, when you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out with fighting compared to maybe some of these other sports. So I usually don't like to tell people when they should retire, but I can just tell you from my experience, I felt like talking to Dustin Poirier and then also just seeing what he was saying and hearing it, that, yeah, it's time for Dustin Poirier to retire. I don't know if he will, but you could tell that this is really just wearing on him, because it sounded like a guy that was going to retire and even talked about it, but then he keeps on talking about like how when he's mentally in the octagon, mentally that's where he's at a good spot. So I was hearing all this stuff with Poirier, and I was sitting at his press conference, heard his post-game fight press conference, and I wasn't intending on asking any questions at this thing, but because I'm not an expert at UFC, I'm just a casual fan and, have good access to the sport, and the UFC has been very kind to me, and I enjoy going. And I'm still learning more and more about the UFC. But I'm never afraid to ask a question if I feel like there's something that has not been asked. And the UFC press conferences are like no other. Like, in terms of the media coverage. Like in the NFL, you can't sit down with the commissioner, which Dana White is, right, of the UFC, basically the president. Like in the NFL, when Roger Goodell holds a press conference, you get one question. And they grab that microphone from your hands before you get a follow-up. And in most cases, they pick the media members that you want. At the UFC, it's a free-for-all. There's a microphone in every seat. And they go around the room. Everyone gets not only one question. The guy that did the first had the first opportunity to ask a question, hey, I think he did a one-on-one interview. I felt like it was a Jody Mack show on a Saturday night where it was like a 20-minute interview. Like, it was wild. So Poirier's up there, and he's talking about how this could be the end. And I remember what Dana White once said to me, where, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, when you start to think it's the end, I usually just hope those guys kind of retire. And this was the question that I asked Dustin Poirier after UFC 302, and then we'll dissect his response in just a second.
That being said, and you've acknowledging that this could be it,
I know this is what you do, but if you elected to get back into the octagon, just how tough would that be to mentally lock back in when you start to think, okay, this could be the end of the road?
I mean, I just did it preparing for this fight. When this fight came around, I was like, okay, because when I fought in Miami at 299, I kind of thought like, this could be the end. This could be the end. But I still feel good in there. That's the problem. Preparing, like if I decide to fight, preparing is that's when I feel normal. That's when everything in my life feels normal because I've been doing it so long. It's the opposite side of that. Not preparing is what scares me.
So that to me, and if I could go back and ask him a follow-up, I would have. That to me is very telling of the Dustin Poirier situation. He's basically saying, when I'm fighting, when I'm training, that's when I'm at my happy place. That's when I'm locked in. That's when I feel good. And I still get that feeling from it. I think, though, internally, or maybe people in his corner are telling him, or he knows it's time to go, but it scares the crap out of him of what he's going to do next and how life is going to be when he's not training for fights. And that's a real concern that, we've seen it in coaching. We've seen it in athletes, where this has been your life, and then you don't know what to do if you start to walk away from the actual fighting part that you control. And if I could go back and kind of ask a follow-up, my follow-up would be is like, the only reason you're fighting is just the fear of not knowing what's next and what life is like for you without fighting? Because that's what it kind of seemed like he was saying in that answer. So I thought that was very genuine stuff from Dustin Poirier, and everyone can root for Dustin Poirier. I know he wasn't going in all likelihood to win that fight. He was a massive underdog, but if that was it, obviously a heck of a career. Now, we turn our attention to, at the end of the month, UFC 303. Samter used to be a big UFC fan, and Samter has said this to me when I have talked about my excitement and newfound love for the UFC, which really started during the pandemic. Samter has said, I can't really get into the UFC anymore. Not that there aren't talented fighters and well-known fighters, but your point was McGregor was so big and was so controversial and so polarizing and was the sport. With him basically not fighting for a few years and dropping off significantly, you've said that it's tough to then get locked back in just because you feel like you don't know the other guys.
Well, I think part of it was McGregor and Rousey both kind of got beat up and around that same time. Like their losses and their fall from the top all kind of happened at the same time. And I was into the UFC, and every time a new guy would step up to be the guy, like Cody Garbrandt was the guy that I really fell. I don't know if you remember Cody Garbrandt. He was awesome. He was an absolute beast. He was so fun to watch. We had him on the show with TK Tierney multiple times. We used to have fighters on like 2 or 3 times a month. We loved the UFC. And some of these guys had such great personalities, great stories. And just when you would jump on some guy's bandwagon, he would get knocked out. And then he would lose another fight. And at least with Rousey and McGregor, there was a consistent winning. Right? Like, you need to have a guy or a girl or a couple who are just, like, dominating the sport so that you can latch onto it. But every fight, the champ loses, or there's an upset, or he wins 2 fights in a row and then he loses again.
Khabib for a long stretch, and John Jones, unfortunately, has troubles getting back into the octagon.
The problem with Khabib,
the fight at
though,
MSG went away.
Yeah, the problem with Khabib was that he retired early. He's Russian. He barely spent any time here in the States. He couldn't speak really very good English. So you couldn't get that star power. McGregor had the personality. Rousey had that personality that, whether you liked her or hated her, Ronda had that it factor. So Holly Holm didn't have it.
Yeah, but
Miesha Tate didn't have it.
So I get what you're saying. Like, when McGregor says what he says, and a lot of the times the things make you cringe, it does add into the fight game. And the fight game, in terms of what they can get away with, is different than anything else. And it's so much about the promotion. But, like, Alex Pereira, like, he speaks through a translator, and anytime that guy gets into an octagon because of how big he is, and he fights down, then he fights up, he's been a joy to watch. And those fights against Adesanya were awesome, and I wish we got to see another one, but it's just so tough when you're that big to keep on making the weight that he was making. So, I do think that's an interesting thing in terms of the marketing of it and the way that you did put it. But to get to your point with McGregor, I think the lost part about this is that as a fighter, his last 4 times out there, he's lost 3 of them. And this used to be a guy, 2 of them went to Poirier, and then he lost to Khabib. And this guy used to be an immortal, right? Like, we all know he's maybe the most important person to ever participate in the UFC. But he used to be someone where you never would think he would lose, and then he's lost 3 of the last 4 fights. And Chandler has waited and waited and waited for him to get into the octagon. And the last time we saw McGregor in the octagon was July of 2021. So if you're already starting to declining, and hey, McGregor, let's just call it what it is. He's partying. He's not in the best shape. I don't know when those videos were, but there were videos that surfaced over the weekend of him partying in some club. Fights in a month. Are you all in? Here's the thing. This McGregor-Chandler fight, you know what it reminds me a lot like? And it may not be fair to put Chandler in this light, but it is. I'll do it anyway. It reminds me in boxing. In my lifetime, really, the only boxing fights that really did resonate in my generation, remember, I'm in that 30 and younger category, was the Tyson Fury fights. Those Tyson Fury fights were just absolutely sensational. Why can I remember the guy that Tyson Fury fought? Those 2 great fights. Deontay Wilder. Thank you. And then Wilder made all those excuses when he was at the walkout. He just had too much garb on and all that stuff, and it took his legs out, and he went after the gloves. But those Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury fights were awesome. But the fight that I always wanted to see for years was Pacquiao and Mayweather. And when Pacquiao and Mayweather occurred, because let's just call it what it is, Mayweather was afraid of Pacquiao. And Mayweather was so involved about the certain testing and everything, and he was just kicking the can down the road. And by the time Pacquiao got into the ring and they agreed to it, he was hurt and he was a shell of himself. And Mayweather could just dance around and win the fight. And that could have been so much better. Like, it's wild. Mayweather-McGregor, when they fought, was actually a better fight than Mayweather-Pacquiao, which we all wanted to see for years, but it was just too late. And this Chandler-McGregor fight, from the McGregor side of it, it feels like it's Pacquiao, where it should have happened earlier. And, McGregor's kind of the Mayweather one, and this is why this fight was taking so long. And you're just delaying and the injuries and all that. And now they're going to fight at the end of the month. Like, I'm going to tune in, I'm going to watch. But I can't expect McGregor to win. And quite frankly, I don't even know if this fight's going to happen. When I'm telling you, I'm at UFC 302. I'm at the press conference. Someone asked Dana about these videos of McGregor partying, and he goes, to be honest, I don't know what's true or false on the internet anymore, because in one video he's in one set of clothes, the other video is another set of clothes. He goes, I don't even know when the video occurred. So that's what he said. But Dana made it clear that right after the press conference was ending, he was getting on a plane, and he was going to Dublin, Ireland, where they're doing the press conference today. Well, that press conference got canceled. And Michael Chandler was going to the airport, and they said, don't come. I'm assuming Dana White made it there. I don't know if he did, but Dana said he was leaving Saturday night. So if Chandler didn't find out about this till yesterday, I highly doubt that Dana White didn't end up going there. So this seems like McGregor canceled the press conference. Why would you cancel the press conference? They're going to you to do the press conference, right? With how big of the crowd it is, Dublin, Ireland, and McGregor and all that stuff. So are you about to pull out of the fight? Are you going to say there's an injury? You're not ready to go? You're not fit? Maybe you're just done fighting? I don't know. But this would be a joke to the sport if he doesn't end up getting in that octagon at the end of the month. Because I've been talking to Dana White about this stupid McGregor-Chandler fight going back to 2 Super Bowls ago. Think about that. And by then, it was already, we were just trying to figure out when the fight would occur. Then we get the date, and now it may not happen. And I have a clip of me talking to Dana White on Radio Row where I said to him, I think McGregor's going to lose. I don't see how Chandler doesn't win this fight. And he goes, that's what makes the fight. He goes, because I'll have people that tell me McGregor's going to win. And there's, for the first time in a while, right, McGregor's doubted, as he should be, with the way that he's acted and all the stupid things he's doing, and he's lost 3 out of the last 4 fights. So it's weird, Samter, and I don't know if you're a big UFC guy, Carlos, but it's weird to me that after getting this fight, and we've seen fights get canceled all the time, but with this press conference not happening and no one giving clarity on this press conference, it just, I'm not saying I know anything because I don't know, jack about this. But it feels like in the next day or two, this fight's on the line. Where something happened, and now they're just trying to figure out how we could still get Conor into the octagon at the end of the month. And I hope that's not the case, but I'm paid to give you my opinion on how I genuinely feel, and that's how I feel, because it makes no damn sense to me why this press conference didn't happen. If there's something more, like if there was a medical emergency, a family issue, and that comes out, I'll be the first one to say, hey, we didn't know that. I was wrong. But with no one willing to say anything right now, and you had I saw one reporter with 7,000 followers say, no, the fight is still planned to be on at the end of the month, then why didn't the press conference happen today? And the fact that we found out about that today, and no one has given us a clear answer on why this press conference hasn't happened today, and if someone has that's in the MMA world and they want to tune, listening to us right now and they want to get us that information, 855-212-4227. You hit me up, Twitter, Instagram. I'm active, at Zach Gelb. Please, I'm begging for the information, but I've not seen anything to tell me why this press conference didn't happen. So I take that and how Dana went out of his way to say he's going to Dublin, Ireland right after the fight for the press conference, and then the press conference doesn't happen. Why was it canceled? And until I get that answer, because I have no faith in Conor McGregor anymore, I'm just going to assume that this fight doesn't happen at the end of the month, and I would be pissed. Because that's why I love the UFC. I don't pay attention who does who have to beat to go on to face this person. I'm not doing an extensive background on each and every fighter. The big fights, I tune in the Saturday night. I could sit on my couch, invite a few people over, sit alone, doesn't matter, and I'm locked in because it's fun to see that dedication and what goes on in the octagon. All right, this is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Rangers lose. Season over. Oilers, Panthers, Stanley Cup final. Game 1 will be Saturday evening with the Rangers losing. Who's the biggest fraudulent team in sports in the last 25 years? We'll give you our answers next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So Conor McGregor, during that segment that we just did, released a statement. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to assume he wasn't listening to our show. But we appreciate it if he was, and that made him compelled to release the statement. In consultation with the UFC, today's press conference was canceled due to a series of obstacles outside of our control. I apologize to my Irish fans and the fans around the world for the inconvenience and appreciate all your passion and support. I can't wait to put on the greatest all-time show in the Octagon. All I'll say to that is, why was it canceled? Obstacles out of our control? I'm assuming Dana White made it there. Assuming you were there. We know Chandler wasn't. They told him not to go. But what was the obstacle? We can't get any clarity on what the obstacle was. When this press conference was supposed to happen today, it didn't. And the fight's at the end of the month. So who the heck knows what's going to happen? But he did say at the end, I can't wait to put on the greatest all-time show in the Octagon. So you would think the fight is now still going to be on at the end of the month. But I would be stunned if McGregor puts on this all-time great performance and wins the fight. I really would be. I just, at this stage of his career, I can't expect much out of Conor McGregor. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question, where you, the listener, gets asked us a question. It's brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I've seen a lot of people tweet me, you make so much fun of the Dallas Cowboys. Where's that energy with your New York Rangers? I am as fair could be. When my team is great, I'll tell you they're great. When they stink and disappoint, I'll tell you when they stink and disappoint. The Rangers were very disappointing in this round up against the Panthers. Now, if you listen to this show, and I even doubled down on it when Eddie Olczyk joined us, I did say going into the playoffs, yes, the Rangers have the most points, but I feel like the best team in the league is the Florida Panthers. Now, it felt like something was different with the Rangers. It felt like with Igor Shesterkin, they were going to find a way to get it done, and Igor put on one of the best performances I've ever seen, right, in a Stanley Cup playoffs, and it didn't result in a championship. Didn't even result in a Game 7 tonight to give you an opportunity to go 60 minutes away from getting into the Stanley Cup final. They didn't result in that. But this is what my hockey team does. My hockey team gets elite goaltending, and then the big moments, the stars don't show up. And Henrik Lundqvist is my favorite hockey player of all time. But as much as Henrik Lundqvist got screwed by this organization, year in and year out, I've never seen a goalie get screwed like the way Igor Shesterkin did. That series would have been over in 4 games if it wasn't for him. Heck, they had a shot to win Game 6 and go to a Game 7. And it's wild. And Florida's a better team. They dominated the time of possession. They had a lot more shots. And Panarin, Mika, and I love Mika, but he stunk in this series. Kreider outside of the shorthanded goal in Game 5 was bad in this series. After a great moment in Game 6 where he had the hat trick in the third period to come on back and advance them to the conference finals. But there is a difference between the Rangers and the Cowboys. And it's amazing that people don't get this. The Rangers at least get to the conference finals. The Cowboys haven't been to a conference championship game since the 1995 season. The Rangers, since 2012, they were there in 2012, they were there in 2014, they were there in 2015, they were there in 2022, and then this past year. So they've been in 5 conference finals since 2012 and 1 Stanley Cup final appearance. The Rangers, you know what the Rangers are? The Rangers are the offspring. If the San Francisco 49ers and the Buffalo Bills of the last decade had a baby. The Bills, always there, they come up short. The Niners, they've been to 2 Super Bowls, they come up short. Both teams have a plethora of talent. And for whatever the reason is, even when you think it's the Bills' years or you think it's the 49ers' year, they don't get the job done. That's the Rangers. If the 49ers and the Bills had a baby, they would be the Rangers. Like, if you're not a hockey fan, that's all equated to you. They're not the Cowboys. But they're a big brand, and they got embarrassed once again. So let's do this. In the last 25 years, who's the most embarrassing, fraudulent team in sports? I will start Carlos with a K, Carlos Ortiz, up first. Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, it's easy for me to pile on the Cowboys. I'm not going to do that. But you actually mentioned one of the teams I was going to say. The 49ers, to me, are frauds. How many bites of the apple is Kyle Shanahan supposed to get at the Super Bowl before we take away the genius label? He went twice, lost both times. He was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta when they blew that lead against the Patriots. So I'm not sold on Kyle Shanahan. They've made some moves over the years. Even before the Kyle Shanahan years, they had Chip Kelly. They lost a franchise record 13 straight games.
No, Chip Kelly stunk.
The Jim Tom Sula years. Everyone keeps talking about how the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl since 98, whatever the case may be. The Niners haven't won since 95. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting the 49ers in this fraudulent category. They keep getting crack after crack, and people are just giving them the benefit of the doubt. Not me. They haven't done it in recent memory. There's no reason for me to think that they're going to do it in recent future. If that makes any sense whatsoever, I put the 49ers as my frauds.
I think the word you're looking at the next few years.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Words
so
are hard.
49ers. I was not expecting that answer. Samter?
I got a couple, if you'll indulge me.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm
you
going
know
to start
what I love
out
about Samter? Whenever we go to him for one of these, I go, give me one. He goes, I got a couple.
Yeah. I didn't want to cheat and put honorable mentions and name like 12 teams.
So is this like a Scantron? Is there an A, a B, a C, and a D? In multiple choice on a test?
And then an all of the above.
Oh, wow.
Well, so we got
go ahead.
So the A, this is clearly the biggest fraud, but they're not my selection. Last year's 2023 Bruins, right? 135 points, 65
individual
wins.
Season, okay.
Yeah.
Because they won a cup in the last 25 years.
Sure. Okay. But, I mean, they all-time record, 135 points, 65 wins,
3-1.
first-round loss.
They're up 3-1 and choked that to the
And
Panthers.
they choked that away. Frauds. You can go into baseball. You look at the 2019 and the 2022 Dodgers. 106 wins and 111 wins, respectively. Both years lost in the NLDS.
Did win a World Series, though. But
but COVID World Series.
World's up.
So it's a little bit
Are
different.
you calling that a Mickey Mouse title?
I think
I will.
I think for a team like that who struggles in the playoffs and Kershaw's always hurt late, it's kind of like the same reason why the Lakers won, because Anthony Davis got like a 5-month respite to rest and relax, so he was healthy for the playoffs.
Now, I will say, if they don't win the championship this year, whoa, those fraud takes are going to really be there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But to me, the biggest fraud is the 2011 Packers, or just really the Aaron Rodgers Packers. 15-1, started out 13-0. First game at home against the Giants, fell flat in their face. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, outside of that one title, how many times did they win divisions? How many times were they the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed? And they did nothing. Aaron Rodgers, his 2011 Packers are the biggest frauds to me.
Wow. At first, when you said the 2011 Packers, because they won the Super Bowl in the year of 2011, I'm like, huh? I'm like, they won the Super Bowl that
No,
year
it was
in
the next
Dallas.
year when they went 15-1
Yeah.
and went one and done in the playoffs with the Giants.
Hey, sometimes you run into a superior team from New York and you lose.
So that's an yeah, it didn't happen this year in hockey.
Certainly.
Not a good timing on that one. So that's funny how you went about that. You went individual season, where Carlos went a consistent theme. I'm going consistent theme. Man, we're really not going to say the Cowboys here.
Low-hanging fruit.
We're really not going to say the Cowboys. I left the Cowboys up for one of you two because I thought it was putting the ball on the tee and one of you bozos would smack it out of the park. But I'm going to stick with my original answer. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've had a lot of talent. They have an all-star team. And with this core, they only got out of the first round one time. And going back to the 2005-2006 season, since then they've only been out of the first round one time. And every year, like the last few years, 102 points, 111, 115. You had the shortened season, 77. Right? They have been right there. 100 points, 105 points, going back to 2018 and 2019. They are right there with teams that have triple-digit points. And they've only been out of the first round of the playoffs one time. And when they got out of the first round of the playoffs, they then lost to the Florida Panthers a year ago in 5 games. So that's that. Last 25 years, let me just ask you this. Who's the most fraudulent team, in your opinion, in sports?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I haven't come up with anything yet. So, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have an answer right now. I don't know, Mr. Hand. So,
You got it. All right.
a little older than 25 years.
We will take a timeout. We'll come on back with a little onside, offside. Let's get the latest update. Here is the Ack Band, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Larry Allen, one of the best offensive linemen in NFL history, has died at the age of 52. The former Cowboys legend was on vacation with his family in Mexico. Allen played 14 seasons in the NFL, the first 12 in Dallas. He went to 11 Pro Bowls and was a 6-time first-team All-Pro. Justin Jefferson and the Vikings have finally come to terms on a new deal, with the wide receiver getting 4 years. That gives him $26 million more than any other receiver. The total package of the deal, $140 million, and $110 is guaranteed. He's now the highest-paid player at the position and the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Rhys Hoskins returns to Citizens Bank Park, with the Brewers going for their 6th in a row against the Phillies, though the offense hasn't suffered since Hoskins' departure. His former manager, Rob Thompson, said he has missed both on and off the field. Milwaukee has a comfortable 7-game lead in the Central. The Phillies come in at 41-19 and will send ace Zach Wheeler to the mound tonight. And the defending champion Rangers host the Tigers. Both hold identical records at 29-30. Tarek Skubal goes for his 8th win against Nathan Eovaldi. I'm Rich Ackerman.
It's Bar Winkler. We're talking NBA and NHL all this week on the Infinity Sports Network, available on your local affiliate or on the Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. Justin Jefferson, did he finally get paid? My, oh, my. A $140 million contract, 110 of that is guaranteed. And you take a look back now, and you see who's next. Maybe it's Jamar Chase. I'm expecting he's going to get a similar deal. CeeDee Lamb also waiting for a contract as well, with his contract set to expire in 2025. And I don't know about you, Samter. Does CeeDee Lamb need a little bit more national love? The last 3 years, these are the numbers on CeeDee Lamb. He's been in the league for 4 years. 79 receptions, 1,102 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 2021. 2022, 107 receptions, 1,359 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then in 2023, 135 receptions, 1,749 yards, and 12 touchdowns. If I just had to ask you right now, Samter, and I'll give you my top 5 wide receivers in the NFL coming up later on in the show. But where do you think CeeDee Lamb is right now? If you just had to throw out a number on the best wide receivers in the NFL.
He's definitely in the top 5. I would probably say somewhere closer to 4 or 5, right? If you look at Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, I mean, we can break it all down. You're going to give us
Devontae Adams. Like, to me,
honestly, if I had to choose right now, CeeDee Lamb or Devontae Adams, that's really close. Maybe I probably choose Devontae Adams, but I don't know if I definitely do. I honestly don't know if I definitely do.
Let me just give you the numbers here. Now, Adams is 31. He turns 32 in December, so maybe age factors into that. But the last 3 years, Devontae Adams, one was with Aaron Rodgers, 123 receptions, 1,553 yards, and 11 touchdowns. 2022, 100 receptions, this is Derek Carr, 1,516 yards, and 14 touchdowns. And last year, with God knows who at quarterback, from Jimmy G to Aiden O'Connell, he had 103 receptions, 1,144 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Personally, and I'll do the full list later, but I'll give you 3 out of the 5 right now in no order. Hill, Jefferson, and Adams are the 3 best wide receivers in the game to me.
If we're just saying, like, right now, for this year, probably. But if we're projecting over the next 4 or 5 years, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Well, okay. That's fair for you to say. I don't know if it's every day of the week and twice on Sundays, but he is significantly younger. The thing is, though, those 3 to me, they have to be in the top 5. Then after that, it becomes fun. Because you could mention CeeDee Lamb. You could talk about Jamar Chase. A.J. Brown needs to be in that conversation. Heck, I know he's been hurt, but Cooper Kupp needs to be in that conversation. Like, right there, I just gave you a bunch of guys, and there's probably a few more. You know, no one ever talks about Mike Evans, but there's a few other guys that will fill out spots 4 and 5, and we'll give you those later. But first up, without further ado, I'm not talking about Freddie Adu. It's time to update you on some of the biggest questions of the day, and I will give you some answers to those questions. We do this segment every Monday, Friday. We call it Onside, Offside. Carlos with a K, Carlos Ortiz. Hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Samter, what do we got cooking today, pal?
All right, so Joe Mixon left the Bengals this offseason, though while the 27-year-old ran for over 1,000 yards last season, his 4th in his career over 1,000, he ranked 33rd among running backs on PFF and averaged just 4 yards per carry, 3.9 yards last year. This week, Mixon's replacement, former Colt Zach Moss, told reporters he has, quote, never been in a position where you come in after a guy who's had so much success. I think it's big shoes to fill.
We talk about your dating life?
Yeah, that's seriously. End quote.
That wasn't directed to you. It was just like whoever was sitting in that chair would have got that line once I heard it.
Don't lie. That was directed squarely at Moist Mike. Onside, offside. The Bengals offense will take a step back without Joe Mixon.
You know what's crazy with Mixon? He was very productive early on in Cincinnati, but even so the last 3 years. And I go back to that Super Bowl against the Rams, and I know everyone talks about the line and how it didn't protect Burrow. And if he had an extra half second and Donald wouldn't got up in his grill and he had Jamar Chase wide open down the right sideline. But I didn't get at the end of that game how they were preferring Samaje Perine at the time over Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon in 2021, just looking at forget the I'll give you the receptions too. But he had 1,205 rushing yards in 2021. 2022 at 814. 2023 at 1,034. And his receptions were 42, 60, and 52 with touchdowns rushing-wise of 13, 7, and 9 in that order going up. So, yeah, he's been in the league since 2017. He's 27 years old. That's where you start to see the decline. So I get why they're moving on. But I felt like they tried to sour that relationship a little bit sooner than they needed to, especially when this guy kept on taking less and less and less to stay with the team. But ultimately, Joe Mixon's not going to make or break their season. I thought he was underappreciated. They have an offensive line that needs to step up, and they need to keep the quarterback healthy. And if they keep the quarterback healthy, and you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, so I think Higgins will be there come week 1. I don't think they're going to take a step back where I'm like, okay, the Bengals can't win a Super Bowl. They just got to stay healthy. So the Bengals offense will take a step back without Mixon. I will go offside.
All right, well, the Lions finished 23rd in the NFL with just 41 sacks last year, despite 11.5 from Aiden Hutchinson. However, head coach Dan Campbell doesn't seem all too concerned.
Sacks aren't that big of a deal as long as you're getting the pressures. As long as you're getting pressures and those pressures show up that affect the quarterback negatively. Now, would you rather have sacks? Absolutely, I'd rather have sacks, right? You lost yardage, all those things, but the pressures are more to me than, man, a pressure that affects the quarterback. We watched a couple of clips this morning in front of the team. Quarterback's wanting to step up. He can't step up. The throw is high. We throw a pick. So these things that end up in negative plays, whether it's incomplete, it's turnovers, it's whatever, I'll take those all day long.
Onside, offside, you agree with Campbell that QB pressures are just as valuable as sacks.
I'm going to go offside here. I'm not going to totally dismiss Dan Campbell's point, but you could pressure someone and you can make a good defensive play, and then the offense could still turn it into something positive on that play. If you hit the quarterback and you sack the quarterback and tackle him, he has the football. That ball could go loose. You get a fumble and you pick it up, or the other team gets it. But the play is over when you sack him. When you get a pressure, you want pressure, but I've seen many teams throw pressure at Mahomes, pressure at Brady, or even, let me say, maybe the worst sports memory I've ever had, Eli Manning. He was under pressure and somehow got out of it and completed a bomb down the field, and David Tyree should be suspended because he put sticky glue on his helmet before the game. But there's a difference between a sack and a pressure. I'm not saying you don't want pressure, but the sack is the end of the play where pressure, something could happen. And it could be a negative. So Campbell is correct. The QB pressure is just as valuable as sack. I will go offside. Next one.
Now, the NFL is investigating the Falcons for tampering with Kirk Cousins, and Adam Schefter reports that the punishment is likely to be, quote, severe.
Cheaters!
Now, in 2023,
Suspend them! Run them out of the league!
The Dolphins lost the
See
first...
how stupid I just sound when I say that? Like all you dopes for all those years that wanted my rule-following football team to get suspended and get everything thrown at them in just a terrible way.
Whatever. You guys cheated multiple different times. In 2023, the Dolphins lost a first and third-round pick for tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton, while the Chiefs were docked a third and sixth-round pick in 2016 for tampering with, believe it or not, Jeremy Maclin.
Those Dolphins, those cheaters. Jeremy Maclin was a good player.
Onside, offside, the Falcons should lose at least a first-round pick.
No. Offside. Hit it.
Offside.
I'm not even giving an explanation. A first-round pick? See, I'm fair. When all you dopes, when my team was winning and you wanted to accuse them of things and take away their draft picks, I dealt with it. Now, if you want some consistency, then I guess that should follow, but I didn't think it was right. So, no, I'm not taking away a first-round pick. Come on. Do you know the story of Jeremy Maclin, by the way?
I know of Jeremy Maclin, Eagles wide receiver.
When Jeremy Maclin got cut by the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid was at his wedding like 2 weeks before, and then they cut him 2 weeks later. And I think it was, who was the guy? He used to run Cleveland. John Dorsey, I think, was the one that cut him. And I guess he didn't go to the wedding. So I guess his wedding gift was, and he even cut his honeymoon, I think, short to get back to training, and then they cut him. I guess kind of the wedding gift was getting cut. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yikes. Now, all rise. Aaron Judge is on fire, hitting .379 with an OPS of 1.432, 15 homers, 12 doubles. That's 27 extra base hits if you can do the math.
Yeah.
In 30 games since May 1st. It's unbelievable how good Aaron Judge is doing right now. Over the weekend, Judge smashed 3 long balls in San Francisco, which, check this stat out, is now tied for the most home runs at Oracle Park this season with Giants sluggers Tiago Estrada, who has 109 plate appearances for those 3 homers, and Mike Yastrzemski, who has 90 plate appearances. Judge has 8 plate appearances and still has the tie for the most home runs at Oracle Park this season. It's unbelievable how he's smashing the ball. So onside, offside, outside of Ohtani, Judge is the face of Major League Baseball.
Mookie Betts is someone that I think of, and he's won in Boston and the Dodgers, in L.A. with the Dodgers. But I would probably say it's Aaron Judge, even though he doesn't have a championship, just because of how large of a presence he is, and he's a Hulk of a human being. So outside of Ohtani, I would say that Aaron Judge is right there, so I would go onsides. All right, that's all the time we got. All right, onside, offside. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the all-new Infinity Sports Network. We will take a break. So Andrew Perloff is now back to writing, I've been informed. He has a new writing gig for this upcoming season. We'll tell you about it when we come on back. Obviously, Perloff, for Maggie and Perloff fans that listen to this show, he's still doing the show here Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern on many of these same affiliates, Sirius XM channel 158, and the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming on YouTube. But, I did see an article that Perloff released today on his new writing home. And media members, right? Talk show host, writing, TV, bunch of stuff. It's not like the first time media members had multiple jobs. But Perloff put out a list, and it's the most polarizing players in the NFL. And there was one player on that list that I'm just a little bit surprised wasn't mentioned. We'll discuss that player next.
Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Yo, how we doing? It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network as we come to you live on this Monday across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM channel 158, the free Odyssey app. And if you stream the show, we're back up and running on YouTube. We had a bit of a hiccup for about 5 minutes during the break, but now we are back up and running on YouTube. So if you consume the show that way, you can get back in to the YouTube chat. Alrighty, Andrew Perloff, our great coworker of the Maggie and Perloff show. He is now writing once again for Athlon Sports. So he's going to be, I guess, providing weekly commentary on this website. And his first column today is something that we're going to react to. It's Andrew Perloff's most polarizing players in the NFL. Now, let me just see something here. Carlos, just going to put you on the spot. Who do you think is the most polarizing player in the NFL if you just had to take a guess? And polarizing, just kind of like pressure. When we talk about teams under the most pressure or coaches under the most pressure, we know what the definition is, but there's many different interpretations on how you're going to define a word polarizing or a word pressure. But according to Perloff, he has identified the 5 people in the NFL that are the most polarizing players. So it's players only. Who do you think your guess is for the number 1 spot?
All right, before I answer that, I'll ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this strictly football context?
Yeah, just Oh, you mean like just in terms of on the field?
Nothing off the field, just simply on the field.
So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that he put out there, yeah, I don't think any of these guys have any problems that I know of off the field.
Okay, so then my initial thought was going to be Tua.
Okay, Tua is on this list. He is number 2. He is 2 out of 5 for most polarizing players in the NFL. Samter, who do you think is the most polarizing player in the NFL?
Aaron Johnson Rodgers.
Is his middle name Johnson?
I don't know. I've just figured out a little name.
You're like Joe Beningo, who used to always call everyone with their middle name Arthur.
There you go.
That would be the middle name.
Aaron Arthur Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is not on the list.
That's surprising. Forget about the off-field stuff. He's polarizing.
There are 2 people on this list that I think need to be on this list. One of them is Aaron Rodgers. I agree. Now, I don't hate Aaron Rodgers. Samter, I think, hates Aaron Rodgers. Oh, don't shake your head.
No, I don't hate him.
Don't be one of those guys that are like, I don't hate someone, but I feel like you very much dislike Aaron Rodgers.
I don't hate Aaron Rodgers. I'm just fed up with Aaron Rodgers. He's so,
you could do without him.
He's so annoying. He's just annoying. I don't want to hear him anymore. I don't want to listen to him anymore. It's not about any of the other stuff. He's just so insufferable.
You know what
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
We should be a weirdo with Aaron Rodgers and go on a retreat, go into one of those dark caves and do ayahuasca with him. That's what I think we should do. I think after the dark cave ayahuasca Aaron Rodgers experience, Samter will leave one of 2 ways. One will be like, yeah, this guy is awesome. Or it'll be like, after I was just in a cave with this guy for 48 hours, yeah, I'm good. I've had enough of Aaron Rodgers. But I do think Rodgers needs to be on the list for many reasons. He's one of the biggest stars in the game. He's a quarterback. And he was a malcontent in Green Bay towards the end. And he was annoyed at the team, which he was right to be annoyed at the team, because they drafted his replacement. Then he went on like the Bleep You tour, won 2 MVPs, and then made it out like he was the victim when the team was trying to get in contact with him. He blamed it on like his crappy cell service, and everyone knows you have to FaceTime him because of the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. And Rodgers made it seem like the Packers gave up on him, and it wasn't him giving up on the Packers. He was done with the Packers. You just knew when he was walking off the field that final game of the season that was it for that time in Green Bay, when he so emotionally walked off the field when they lost that game in the regular season, didn't go to the playoffs. But with Rodgers, and I think this goes into the polarizing, like polarizing could be something that we talk about so much. Is this the guy or is this not the guy? And then it's polarizing what happens off the field. This was a guy that talked about eliminating distractions this offseason, and all he does is talk about still like the pandemic and all these theories that he reads, and then also talked about how he almost, it was in his line of thinking. He had a choice to make, a decision to make. Do you keep on playing football, or do you walk away and try to be RFK Jr.'s vice president? Like, that's been the offseason of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers plays the victim card, but he's the one that always puts out all these things, and he can control what comes out of his mouth. And a lot of times, he says stupid things. So I do think Rodgers needs to be on this list. I'll give you the list, and then I'll give you the one player that I think also needs to be on this list. So in at number 5, Perloff, and he's usually against the grain. He had Kyle Pitts, which I don't think Kyle Pitts is polarizing. Kyle Pitts is just supposed to be really good, and he's been up and down. So I'll give you the explanation. Shout out to the fantasy football owners who thought Pitts would become the next Travis Kelce and took him in the 5th round. The Falcons made Pitts the highest drafted tight end in NFL history, number 4th overall in 2021, and few observers blinked. He appeared to be the perfect prospect and caught 68 passes for 1,068 yards his rookie season, but since then, Pitts has struggled to find his place in Atlanta's offense. A knee injury limited him to 10 games in 2022 and appeared to affect him last season, even though he played in all 17 games. The Falcons should get a clearer picture of Pitts' value with Kirk Cousins replacing Desmond Ridder at quarterback and new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson taking over for former head coach Arthur Smith as the play caller. Smith's inconsistency in involving his best receiver was infuriating and one of the reasons he didn't work out in Atlanta. It feels as if Pitts has been letting down fantasy owners for a long time, but he's only 23. Writing him off because he didn't produce in a flawed Falcons offense would be a mistake. I love Perloff. That doesn't tell me that he's polarizing. That's just, like, to me, and there's a lot of guys that are polarizing on this list. I just look at Kyle Pitts, whether you think it's the team or him, as disappointing. I wouldn't call him polarizing, though. The next one, and I give him credit, right? Because you could just give all 5 quarterbacks. At least Perloff's not giving all 5 quarterbacks. Jerry Jeudy. And this one I'm spot on with. I think this is an excellent find by Perloff, saying Jerry Jeudy's the 4th most polarizing player in football. Here's why Jerry Jeudy's polarizing. He thinks he's great. He's not. He is a number 2 wide receiver at best in this league. But not only does he think he's a number 1, he thinks he's a top 10 receiver in the league. Jerry Jeudy, I know the Broncos haven't had a quarterback, but Jerry Jeudy has been insanely disappointing. And he got into it with Steve Smith, and you had that whole kerfuffle. And now he's going to Cleveland, where he's the number 2 wide receiver. A good move for the Browns. But you know what Jerry Jeudy kind of reminds me of? Early stages of Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, show some flashes of being a 1. But whenever you're all bought in on him being a 1, he shows you he's really more like a 2. He's like an in-betweener. It's like a 1.5, but he leans more to being a number 2 than it is a number 1 wide receiver. So that's a good one by Perloff. All right, here's where we get really juicy with Perloff. Let me just throw this name out there. And it shows that you could be polarizing and still be like a guy that people like. Saquon Barkley. That's a good one. Because Barkley was supposed to take the league by storm. He's been good. He's had a few great seasons, a lot of injuries. But he is definitely polarizing now, just inside the NFC East, when you go from New York down the turnpike to Philadelphia and sign a rich contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think because of what we saw out of Saquon in college, how explosive he was, and then getting taken 2nd overall for a running back, he hasn't lived up to the hype, but he hasn't had a bad career. He's still a good player. But I do think he is polarizing. And it's funny because he has $1 million smile. You wouldn't think a guy with $1 million smile that's likable is polarizing, but Saquon has become polarizing. All righty. Carlos got it. You said Tua, correct? Tua is definitely polarizing. And there's nothing wrong with Tua. Like, Tua's a good dude. But at Alabama, he was sensational. Then, unfortunately, had the hip injury, the ankle injury. And in Miami so far, originally did not get the support from Brian Flores. Also suffered a bunch of concussions. And I think a lot of people, because of, like, Tua's following, right? The Tuanon, as likes to be joked about on social media. It's almost as if it's like a Tebow type of following. Now, we all know, as an NFL quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa runs laps and circles around Tim Tebow. But the P1 Tebow fan and the P1 Tua fan think there's not like a flaw in his game. And this is what has made Tua polarizing. A, he's a quarterback. The Dolphins haven't had a quarterback since Marino. They have a guy, but is he the guy? And this year he put up stats that would suggest Tua is a top 5 quarterback. But if you watch the games, I don't think Tua is a top 5 quarterback. And you could argue that Tua may not even be a top 10 quarterback. He's right there. Here's the thing with Tua. He was so great, and I was a big Tua fan. But I think his limit in just the NFL now, and still in the NFL with all the injuries, and I know his arm is good, but in big moments, we have not seen that arm be great in quite some time. And Tua, to me, is someone that's good, not great, but he's only going to continue to get paid a lot of money and record-breaking money that suggests he is a great quarterback, and I don't think he's going to live up to that great money.
The one thing I'll add to that is the most polarizing thing to me about Tua Tagovailoa is his new look. Have you seen his hair?
Oh, yeah, he has luscious locks now.
He shaved his beard and grew his little luscious locks out. He looks like a surfer dude. He does not look like an NFL player. He looks like someone who belongs like in a movie or like on a surfboard in California. He does not look like an NFL quarterback. That's the most controversial polarizing
Remember
thing.
the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yes. He looks like the guy from that. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if he looks like the guy from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but he just looks like a guy that could be casted in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
No, not what's his name? Whatever.
I have
Jason
no clue.
Segel. Not Jason Segel, but like one of the guys in Hawaii who was, yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. That's where he's from. But, like, if you showed me a picture of Tua last week, and Samter did this, and I was like, who is that? He's like, that's Tua. I'm like, wow, that is a total transformation. He looked like he even put on some more weight. Remember what Ryan Clark said about him last year? Do you remember? He said he looks like he could be at like Onyx or something, which was okay. And Tua did not like that. But man, Tua had a good season. He backed it up. But when you showed me that photo the other day, I was like, that's an NFL quarterback? I was not expecting Tua to look like that. So maybe before the season starts, he'll get back into football shape. And then number one, it's Dak Prescott. And yes or no? Go around the room. I think the answer is yes. Dak Prescott, is he the most polarizing player in football right now? Yes or no? Santer?
On the field, probably, but I think Aaron Rodgers still gives him a run for his money.
Well, Rodgers off the field.
Dak
Prescott's
a
Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, right?
Yeah, no, but Dak's, he's been on the Cowboys, Aaron Rodgers, Packers, Jets, two big markets, right? A historic franchise, won a Super Bowl, fallen short multiple times. And then this year had all this stuff building up, and then boom, Achilles injury. I think that there's a lot there with Rodgers. Forget about all of his off-field nonsense. On the field, what he has and hasn't done. Aaron Rodgers is Dak in 5 years from now.
Oh, no. Because
I guess Rodgers won one, but Dak...
Yeah, Dak won't have a Super Bowl.
Probably not, but Dak has had success after success and then failure after failure.
Hold on. Aaron Rodgers, top 10 quarterback of all time. Dak Prescott is not even a top
Aaron
20,
Rodgers,
top 30.
top 10 all time?
All right. Even at worst, top 15.
Yeah, okay.
But
maybe top 10.
He is one of the most talented quarterbacks I've ever seen.
For sure. And that's why he's so polarizing, because he might be the most talented quarterback we've ever seen.
No, he's polarizing because he doesn't shut up ever.
No, but I think part of before his talking.
But Aaron Rodgers never thinks he does anything wrong. That's why he's polarizing, and he throws these opinions and then plays the victim card. I don't think Aaron Rodgers' play makes him polarizing.
I disagree. I think that I agree with you that his
it's disappointing that he hasn't been to another Super Bowl and hasn't won another Super Bowl, but I don't think his play is why he's polarizing. It's because the guy doesn't shut his damn mouth ever.
I think before he started talking or before we started listening to him,
everyone loved him.
I don't think so.
Stop. Everyone loved this guy.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think everyone loves Dak.
Remember why? I am a Tom Brady fan.
Right.
Do you know how many times I had to deal with insufferable people slobbering over Rodgers and saying these ridiculous things about how great Rodgers is while trying to demean the great Tom Brady?
Right, but so I don't think it's about love-hate, right? I think everyone loves Dak. I don't think there's anybody who dislikes Dak. He's polarizing.
He's the Cowboys quarterback. 50% of the people hate him.
Yeah, but
Dak, hold on, stop. Dak, the person. I could get behind Dak, the person. Dak, the quarterback. This is why Dak's more polarizing than Rodgers. Because nothing has to happen off the field for us to talk about Dak. Dak on the field, just in his own, is polarizing because he's the definition of a good, not great quarterback, and he's on America's team, and every year it's the same story. Great in the regular season, big performance. You got the cockroach fans popping up. Oh, here come the Cowboys. Here they come. It's going to be our year. And then Dak doesn't deliver over and over again. That's why I think Dak is more polarizing than Rodgers. Now, if you take the off-the-field stuff, sure. But Dak, off the field, nothing even happens. And this guy's so polarizing because of on the field.
Now, you did say there was one other player that was not on this list that should be on this list. Who are you thinking of?
And it's actually on the Cowboys.
Oh. I guess I might have an idea. Tell me.
Oh, Carlos, you want to say it?
No, I'll let you say it.
No, you can say it. Take a guess.
Micah Parsons.
Is that the guy that you were guessing too?
I mean, after what he said to us at the Super Bowl about T.J. Watt not being a top 5 pass rusher, I think I have to say Micah Parsons.
It is Micah Parsons. And that has brought a heightened awareness to me about how polarizing Micah Parsons is. Micah Parsons came on this show and said T.J. Watt's not a top 5 pure pass rusher in the league. And when I said to him, similar to like Samter talks about Rodgers, I see, like, Micah, I know how this works. I've been around long enough. I'm not ancient, but I've been around long enough. When you say someone like T.J. Watt, who led the league in sacks and has done for a bunch of times, isn't a top 5 pure pass rusher, people are just going to assume you hate him. And he's like, nope, I don't hate him. It's the same thing with you and Rodgers. You say you don't hate Rodgers, we know you hate Rodgers. So, Micah Parsons since then, and he said some things before, but he has gone on a run of just saying stupid thing after stupid thing in sports. Not outside of sports, in sports. At least it's like fun. We can have fun with it. And when someone challenges him, he has like no facts whatsoever, or his facts are just wrong. Like that show at the draft with C.J. Stroud. I forget who they were talking. Oh, he's talking about the NFC East being the best division in football. And C.J. Stroud's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're making no sense. What you're saying is just not a narrative that's out there. And here's what's going to happen with Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons, production-wise, is great. But the Cowboys are going to continue to come up short. And what he says is going to continue to get amplified. And people have already started to wonder it. And I don't think it's fair, but people will. They'll be like, is he more concerned about being a media guy? Or is he more concerned about his production on the court? Or, on a football field. Like, is he committed enough to winning a Super Bowl? And Micah is one of those guys where it's never his fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And he plays for the Cowboys. I think Micah Parsons is going to continue to be extremely polarizing because he wants the attention. He will create the noise himself, and you will always have the Cowboys following you where you may play great, but the team's not going to win, and that creates like 50 people that love you and 50 people that hate you out of 100. All righty, so good list there by Perloff. The only one I disagree with is Kyle Pitts. I don't think he's big enough to be in the top 5, especially when you don't have Rodgers or Micah Parsons in there. But he had Kyle Pitts 5, Jerry Jeudy 4, Saquon Barkley 3, Tua Tagovailoa 2, and C.D. Lamb. Or excuse me, Dak Prescott in that one. We almost hit the trifecta there on the Dallas Cowboys. But most polarizing player in the NFL, I'm going Dak. Samter, right? You said, did you go, I guess, Dak, or are you Rodgers? You confused me.
I'm still going with Rodgers. I guessed Dak on this list, but I think it's Rodgers.
And Carlos, your most polarizing player? Is it Dak?
It's Tua for me.
Oh, it's Tua for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Who's the most polarizing player in the NFL? Tua is a really good one. 855-212-4227 coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, Mike Tannenbaum was on the Dan Patrick Show. And Mike Tannenbaum had this to say in an NFL redraft.
If we were drafting NFL players, I think you and I would agree we'd take Patrick Mahomes number 1. I'm taking Jordan Love number 2. I've really been thinking about this a lot. Like, who would you take before Jordan Love in terms of youth, ability, and I think his future is limitless. We've seen Jordan Love in 1 year show greatness. He was arguably, over the last half of the season, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL.
So, I'm very optimistic about the future of Jordan Love. Very optimistic. And what he did at the end of the season was special. But the second quarterback in a redraft, so in a redraft, right, you don't even think about a guy like Rodgers just because of where he is at age. It'd be like if you're drafting a Madden team and you're building a franchise, you're looking for someone probably for 10 years. So we all know, right, no discussion, Patrick Mahomes is number 1. But then when it comes to number 2, Jordan Love is really your guy. And I know I will say, what about Josh Allen? And what about Joe Burrow? And people go, oh, well, what about the age? You know, Burrow's 27 and Josh Allen's 28. Well, the guy that you just took number 1 is 28 as well. So it's not like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are ancient. Those two guys, just for starters, need to be in front of Jordan Love. I'll even throw another name. Because if you want to go maybe a guy that hasn't been around long enough and you want to go with younger guys in the league, because that was really a lot of Tannenbaum's point, let's go around the room here. C.J. Stroud or Jordan Love? Who would you rather have for the next 10 years? Carlos.
C.J. Stroud.
Samter.
I'll go C.J. Stroud. However, I would not be shocked if Jordan Love ends up being better than Stroud. Jordan Love's first year last year, I think, was better overall than C.J. Stroud.
Wait. You thought Jordan Love, who got to sit for 3 years, had a better year than
4,200 yards,
C.J.
32
Stroud?
touchdowns, 11 picks.
Wait. Say the numbers again.
4,200 yards.
Yeah, 4,159 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks.
Yes.
And give me the C.J. Stroud numbers.
C.J. Stroud's numbers were, hold on,
Who
pulling
had
it
one
up.
of the greatest rookie seasons of all time.
4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks. Great. I'm not saying.
I'd rather fewer turnovers.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, yes, Stroud had an incredible all-time historic rookie season. But if you're just looking at their first years as full-time starters, I think Jordan Love had an overall better year, especially when you look at what Mike Tannenbaum was saying. The second half of the season, he was the best quarterback in the NFL that second half of the season.
Now, here's something that this does not account for. Stats don't account for. Look at the situation C.J. Stroud was taking over with a dreadful franchise like the Texans, where they were one of the biggest clowns teams in the NFL, and we had so many jokes with them. And look at the environment you had Jordan Love walking into. I get it with the toxic relationship with Rodgers, but the Packers, all they do is pump out successful quarterbacks.
Just as a heads up, last 9 games of the season, 68% completion percentage, 2,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 picks for Jordan Love. The last 9 games of the season. Remember, we had Kevin Harlan on before early in the season, and we're like, we don't know if Jordan Love's going to be the guy.
Harlan said it, yeah.
Those last 9 games, Jordan Love may have been the best quarterback in the NFL. And if you look at that, you can see how Jordan Love's trajectory could be better than someone like C.J. Stroud.
I now know why Bill Belichick says stats are for losers. Don't get me wrong. Jordan Love is really damn good down the stretch. I never looked at him, though, and said, that's the best quarterback in the league. So the stats are... this is why I love and hate this conversation. I want this to be clear, because I know there's a lot of Packers fans who listen to this show. I like Jordan Love. Jordan Love, when I watched him last year, I said, that's a guy that can be a great quarterback. I was impressed by Jordan Love. But what C.J. Stroud did in year 1 with that Texans team, that was just more impressive. So if you're asking me right now, would I rather have Stroud or Love? Maybe Love ends up being a better player. But if you say you make the draft pick, Stroud or Love, who would you rather draft? I personally would go with C.J. Stroud. Let's go to Kennedy Carter on her incident with Caitlin Clark. Listen up.
Kennedy, on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the fever
I
score.
didn't answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything. That's enough.
That's enough. That's a grown woman in Kennedy Carter. She can't sit there and answer some questions about it. And, this is the thing, too. For years, people wanted more coverage of the WNBA and for women's basketball. Well, those are fair questions. So if you want to be big time, you got to at least allow those questions to be answered. Now, the athlete may give you a non-answer, but you can't basically say that's enough of answering those questions. And then, Kennedy Carter, if you are going to give no answers there, then you log on to your threads and you basically go, oh, well, what does Caitlin Clark do outside of shooting 3-point shots? There's a lot more, all the money she brings to the game, all the attention, the chartered planes, also her passing too, if we want to keep it to basketball court. I would have respected Kennedy Carter more because I like rivalries. I like intensity moments. She crossed the line, but it's not the end of the world. And I think there's a lot of stupid opinions that do come from it. But I would have respected Kennedy Carter more if she would have said what she said on threads in front of the media after the game. That's just me. Here's Caitlin Clark on her incident with Kennedy Carter and the physical play in the WNBA.
Just let them hit you, be what it is. Don't let it get inside your head, and know it's coming. I think at this point, I know I'm going to take a couple hard shots a game, and that's what it is. I'm trying not to let it bother me, and just stay in the game and stay in what's important, because usually it's the second person that gets caught if you retaliate or something. So just trying to stay in the game and focus on my team and focus on what's important.
She's so mature, and she is a mega star. And there's never an answer that she gives where when you listen to it and you go, okay, the moment got the best of her. I think she knows what she's dealing with, and she knows the scrutiny that she's under and the attention that she's under. And it's got to be extremely stressful, but it's kind of crazy how it seems like publicly she's never snapped when talking to the media or things like that. Let's go to Ross Atkins on Sirius XM MLB Radio. He's the Blue Jays GM on potentially trading some of their big stars at the deadline with the terrible start the Blue Jays are off to.
It just doesn't make any sense for us. Oftentimes, not often, there will be occasional times as you're talking to other executives that they'll ask if we'll consider And we just say it's not something that we have spent any time on. But because they're so talented and such great teammates, they are attractive to other teams, so they will call. I was disappointed to see a report that was something that another executive had commented on about our team, but it just doesn't make sense.
No, they've been very disappointing. So when you are very disappointed, you got to consider maybe trading some people. But they are 2 games under 500 right now. Maybe we'll see if they do turn it around. But they, just like the Mets, are going to be fascinating to see what they do with some of their youngsters. Tommy Pham. You know, sometimes we talk about if you're in a dark alley and you want to call one athlete to get you out. Like, there's a bunch of answers. Aaron Donald's a big answer for all those years. Tommy Pham needs to be included in that conversation. Let's have John Schifrin? Is this his name? Schriffen of NBC Sports Chicago. He is the White Sox play-by-play announcer on Tommy Pham's beef with the Brewers.
Here's the throw to the plate, and he's out. And Contreras is barking at him. Tommy Pham's barking back. He's not backing down. He doesn't like that. And now home plate umpire Edwin Jimenez has to hold back Pham. Nah, we ain't taking that. We ain't taking that from the Brewers. I don't care how many L's we got this year. We ain't taking that.
Sounds like the announcer's trying to try a little bit too hard. Now, I've read a little bit about the announcer. I guess there's a beef where White Sox fan, new play-by-play guy, they like the old guy better. They don't like this guy, and I guess he's been a little sensitive, too. He's been going at it with Danny Parkins of The Score, who's like a sensational radio host. So I guess now he's trying to I don't care how bad we are. You know, we don't take that. We don't take that. Like, honestly, Tommy Pham was in the wrong. Like, he was dead. Absolutely dead at the plate. And he, barreled over the catcher. And then the catcher got up and said something. Like, am I missing something here? When I saw this, I go, I love the reaction. I love the personality. Make us talk about baseball finally. But I kind of thought Tommy Pham was just, unhinged and a psycho. And he was, in the outfield, and he's still looking like he wants to beat the snot out of someone. I'm surprised they were able to hold him back. But this is why Tommy Pham, and it makes the moment, and no one will look back at the actual incident called into question, because this is what Tommy Pham had to say about the whole kerfuffle.
1-run ball game, close play at the plate. And actually, it wasn't even close. I nailed out at home by a mile. I'm going to the dugout, and I hear the tough guy with all the hoorah. So I'll never start anything, but I'll be prepared to finish it. There's a reason why I do all kinds of fighting in the off season, because I'm prepared to somebody up. So you can take it as what it is.
That's awesome. That is just unbelievably awesome. And I love how he mentions or makes mention to all the incidents before. He had one incident fight in the offseason. Remember when he showed up to the stadium one day over a fantasy baseball thing?
That was with Jock Peterson.
And he said he was going to slap him, and then a year later over, putting players that are out on the injured list or something like that, and a year later he saw Jock Peterson before it came and slapped him. Alrighty. I'll play you 2 hockey ones, and then we'll get on out of here for the break. Here is the Connor McDavid goal last night. This is why people call him Connor McJesus. This put him up 1-0 in the game and set the tone. Oilers only had 10 shots in the game, but they punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup final. Here's the Oilers Radio Network.
Now Draisaitl coming off the goal line. Finds McDavid. Heading for the net. Around Steele. Toe drag. Backhander score. What a sensational goal by the captain, Connor McDavid. It's 1-0 Edmonton in Game 6. Spectacular!
So I would try to describe this goal, but I don't think it does it justice. Just go online if you've not seen it and look up the Connor McDavid goal last night. It was sensational. That was Jack Michaels on the call. Very, very strong showing from Jack Michaels on the play-by-play. Because Michigan is always the craziest. He's screaming. He's going nuts. And I used to hate him, but now I find him very enjoyable. Jack Michaels, though, a few years ago, it was the guy in Colorado. Who's the play-by? Is it McGahee or something like that in Colorado? Their play-by-play guy on the radio. He did a very good job 2 years ago. This year I didn't love him. Jack Michaels, though, right now is taking that baton and he's running with it. And then finally, here's the Panthers Radio Network. Here is the Vladimir Tarasenko.
Foot race between Luostarinen and Keandre Miller, and Luostarinen wins that battle. Lundell in front, and they score! It was sent backdoor for Tarasenko, and the Panthers take a 2-0 lead with 10:52 to go here in the third period. What a feed out in front, and what a finish!
And, of course, then the Rangers got a goal when they pulled the goalie to suck you back in with under 2 minutes left. Panarin finally did rise to the occasion to make it 2-1, and they're like, oh, maybe they're going to find a way. And I'm like, no chance. Why am I taking the bait on this one? All righty, that is a news brief. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's get the latest update with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Hall of Famer and Cowboys legend Larry Allen has died while on vacation with his family in Mexico. He was just 52. Allen spent the first 12 of his 14 NFL seasons in Dallas. He was named to 11 Pro Bowls and first-team All-Pros 6 times. A tearful Emmitt Smith remembered his friend and former teammate on social media.
The one thing about Larry Allen I know, he had a big heart, and he lived life to the fullest. A man of very few words, but on the football field was a beast.
The Vikings' Justin Jefferson finally gets the new deal he was looking for. 4 years, a total of $140 million, $110 million guaranteed, and it makes him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The NBA Finals begin Thursday. The Stanley Cup Finals are Saturday. Tonight it's just baseball with only 8 games on the schedule, one of them a battle of division leaders with the Phillies hosting the Brewers, who have won 5 in a row, and Reese Hoskins returns to Citizens Bank Park. The Padres' Tucupito Marcano reportedly faced a lifetime ban for allegedly betting on baseball when he was injured last year. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, sports fans, it's Jim Rome. Check us out 24/7 on your smart speaker. Just say, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jim in Louisiana says, Zach, who are your top 5 receivers in the NFL? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. So obviously I think this question gets asked because today Justin Jefferson has a brand new contract with the Minnesota Vikings. It's a 4-year extension, record-breaking $140 million. With 110 of it guaranteed. Justin Jefferson, here's the hot take of the day, is obviously on my top 5 receiver list in the NFL. I got to reach out to the Vikings. We got to get Jefferson or J.J. McCarthy on before the season starts. They're usually pretty damn good to us. So I'll go here 1 through 5. Usually we do these lists, we do 5 through 1. I'll do it 1 through 5. I think the best wide receiver in the NFL is Tyreek Hill. And when I said this earlier in the show that Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the NFL, someone wrote in the YouTube comments, that's an insanely dumb comment to make. Why would Kansas City trade the best wide receiver in the NFL? And I was like, hold on. Before I seriously respond to this, Tyreek Hill the last 2 years, 119 receptions in 2023, 119 receptions in 2022. He had 1,710 yards in 2022, 1,799 receiving yards in 2023, 7 receiving touchdowns in 2022, 13 receiving touchdowns in 2023. If you can't figure out why Tyreek Hill isn't the best wide receiver in the NFL, I just don't know what to tell you at this point. You could trade a wide receiver and you could trade the best wide receiver in the NFL. Randy Moss has been traded. Terrell Owens has jumped around from team to team. This is not this unprecedented circumstance where a wide receiver gets traded and is the best wide receiver in the NFL. So Tyreek Hill is one. Then at number 2 is Justin Jefferson. And what Justin Jefferson has done to start his career is historically great in his first 4 years. Then at number 3, it's Davante Adams. I don't think it's debatable. You could argue who's 1, 2, and 3, but I think it's clear entering this season, the 3 best receivers in the league, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams. That's my list, 1, 2, and 3. Now for 4 and 5, I think 4 and 5 is very difficult because you consider a few of these guys. A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, maybe Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase in at 4. Now, Jamar Chase, right, you had Jefferson out of LSU, fire start to his career. Then Jamar Chase out of LSU, 2 of them former teammates, fire start to his career. Chase has played in one fewer year in the league. Jamar Chase in 45 games, 17 games, 12 games, 16 games to start his career. 3,717 yards and 29 touchdowns. 268 receptions. I got to put Jamar Chase in at number 4. And I know he played 16 games this past year, but he was hurt in a lot of those. Now, I think this is kind of the toughest 5th spot because you have A.J. Brown, you have Cooper Kupp, and CeeDee Lamb. Cooper Kupp, a few years ago, won a Super Bowl MVP and the Triple Crown. The last 2 years hasn't been able to stay healthy, but the year prior to getting hurt, he was 145 receptions, 1,947 yards, and 16 receiving touchdowns. That's sensational. Since then, a lot of injuries have impacted the time he's been on the field. 75, 8, 12, and 6. 59, 737, and 5 in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. I want to put Cooper Kupp in this list because I think Cooper Kupp gets disrespected, but the last 2 years have to matter. So Cooper Kupp's not in the top 5. So this decision, and as great as Mike Evans is, and Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer, I didn't put Mike Evans in the top 5. Remember, this is going into the season. Even though Mike Evans last year, without Tom Brady, Mike Evans, 79 receptions, 1,255 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Dude's a stud. Mike Evans' career started in 2014. He has 762 receptions, 11,680 yards, and 94 touchdowns. He's great. But my decision came down to CeeDee Lamb and A.J. Brown. And I think this is splitting hairs between the two. Because if I just gave you the numbers, receiver 1 had, in the last 2 years, 135 yards, 1,749 yards, 12 touchdowns. That was in 2023 for receiver 1. Receiver 1 in 2022, 107 receptions, 1,259 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Receiver 2, back in 2022, 88 receptions, 1,496 yards, and 11 touchdowns. 2023, 106 receptions, 1,456 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So you are splitting hairs here. But I'm going to go slightly CeeDee Lamb over A.J. Brown. Slightly. And you look at the last 2 years for CeeDee Lamb, both over 100 receptions, 107, 135. A.J. Brown is at 88 and 106. And then receiving yards, 1,359, then had nearly 1,800 yards. A.J. Brown, hey, back-to-back pretty much 1,500-yard seasons, 1,496 and 1,456. Lamb, why? Like, if you're going to make the case for Brown and argue against me, Brown has a lot more weapons around him. And he still puts up these ridiculous numbers. But CeeDee Lamb, like, where would their offense be if the Cowboys didn't have CeeDee Lamb? Like, if A.J. Brown got hurt, and A.J. Brown is sensational, but, like, you still have now, going into this year, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Like, you got pieces there. If CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, who's Dak Prescott throwing the ball to? Brandon Cooks? Brandon Cooks, solid wide receiver. Brandon Cooks is the fourth wide receiver if you combine the Eagles and the Cowboys. So I go slightly CeeDee Lamb. And hey, A.J. Brown got to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. It was an enormous piece for them and caught a great touchdown pass in that left corner of the end zone. I just think CeeDee Lamb's value to the Cowboys is a little bit stronger than CeeDee Lamb's or A.J. Brown's value to the Philadelphia Eagles. That was tough. 1, 2, 3 was easy peasy. Hill 1, Jefferson 2, Adams 3. And then I had a list of a few guys, and I'm like, okay, I'll put Jamar Chase in there, and then I'll put CeeDee Lamb in as well. Those are my top 5 receivers in the NFL. All righty, tomorrow we'll do some NBA with the finals. Finally, right around the corner. They start on Thursday. Robert Horry knows a thing or two about winning championships. He's going to join us tomorrow. We'll do some Stanley Cup playoff preview as well as Game 1. The puck will be dropped on Thursday evening. And we never know what other NFL stories are going to end up happening.
I know as a Rangers fan you're a little bit disappointed, but are you more excited for the Stanley Cup finals with the Panthers and Oilers or the Celtics and Mavs in the NBA?
Celtics and Mavs.
Yeah.
Here's why. It's the Kyrie Irving factor. Like, I will watch the entirety of the Stanley Cup final, but I really thought my team, after for the most of the year not saying they're going to win the Cup, the last month and a half before the playoffs started, they just kept on winning these improbable comebacks. I thought it was going to be the year. And even though I think that's going to be a great Stanley Cup final, because the Panthers are the best team in the league, I've been saying that all year. And then you have McDavid and Draisaitl, I will still watch that final, and I'll enjoy it. But there will be moments in the final where I'll be sitting there, and I'll be saying, man, imagine if the Rangers got through. Imagine if they got through. Here's what I'm annoyed about. Shesterkin was as good as, I've ever seen. And with how talented they are, they're big dogs. Guys who I like. I love Panarin, love Kreider, love Mika. They didn't show up. And all I asked for when they were down 3-2, right? Just win Game 6. Go to war for Igor, even if they lose Game 7. But all I wanted was to spend a lot of money tonight, go to Madison Square Garden. If they rip my heart out, they rip my heart out. We couldn't even get there. But anyway, that's all on the show today. Very depressing. Thank you, Samter. Now the rest of my week's going to be miserable. I'm going to go pour myself a drink. Carlos Ortiz, great job. Samter, great job. Each and every one of you, great job. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye.